Hi everyone! Bonjour à tous! This is Romy. Welcome to this new show dedicated to altering and transforming your old clothes. I hope these videos will inspire you to give a second life to pre-loved garments by making them more attractive, more fitted, more up-to-date and more fun. Today, I will show you a simple yet effective way to completely refashion an old polka dot dress that I found in a second-hand shop for about $3. Both classic and timeless, I really hope you'll love the cut of our new dress. Let's get started! C'est parti! First, let's cut the dress in half and work on the top part. When the fit will be just right, we'll use it to adjust the skirt accordingly and we'll reattach both parts together. So for my skirt, I decided to keep a length of 62 centimeters, which include a 1 centimeter seam allowance to sew it back to the top. And for the bottom hem, we will keep the existing one. You can see that the fabric is very sleek and moving, therefore it's quite useful to trace a curved line before cutting the fabric. I'm also cutting the collar as well as the straps, but I don't throw them away, it might come in handy later. To prep my dress form, I have attached a brow of mine to have the right breast measurements. Now this little stripe of fabric here will allow better draping by removing the gap between both breasts. And to trace the desired shape of the neckline, I used a white adhesive tape. Today we will create a bodice with princess seams. Now pin the front to the center front line, the side seam to the side line, and the back seam to the center back line of the dress form. Once the fabric is attached to these strategic lines, we can work on creating the princess seams. Take the fabric in and pin it so it will create a long dart all the way up to the top of our corsage. Also, don't forget to give yourself a little ease to be able to breathe. If you don't have a dress form, you can drape everything on yourself in front of a big mirror. It's doable. I have done it before investing in this $30 second-hand dress form that makes my life so much easier. The front and the back are now perfectly fitted, and we are going to trace on the fabric the waistline as well as the neckline by following the shape of the white ribbon. So I am following the waistline of the dress form to transfer it to the fabric with a thread and a needle. Feel and follow your own waist if you're working on yourself. Don't forget to stop your thread with a few back stitches once you reached a dart and to take a new one to go on, marking the next piece of fabric. This way we won't have to cut the thread as we remove the pins, and the waistline will safely remain on every piece. We are going to repeat the same operation to transfer the shape of the neckline. That's the line that we have created with the white ribbon. You can touch your corsage and feel the thickness of the ribbon through the fabric, which will guide you for your markings. And finally, we also need to trace the princess seams. You can do that on the table without removing the pins, or directly on the dress form to be more accurate. It's fairly simple. We need to trace the seam on each piece, on the front and on the back seam as well. I have marked the first piece, now onto the second, and it's probably easier to understand by watching the screen. With the contrasting thread, I'm adding some construction indications that will allow us to assemble our pieces back. Use as many as needed, probably more when the seams are curved and less when it is straighter. When we'll remove our garment from the dress form, the shape of each separate piece will appear on the fabric, and the construction marks will allow perfect alignment when we'll sew the pieces back together. We'll transfer these marks as well as the piece's shape on the other side of our corsage symmetrically. Alright, let's do it. I remove the pins and gently open up the fabric. I'll do the same as well for our front dart. We can now roughly cut around the pieces, leaving a minimum of 1 centimeter seam allowance and about 2 to 3 when there is enough fabric. Write the name and the side of your pieces, and then we'll trace them on paper with a tracing wheel. The paper itself is placed on a soft surface like a table topper to make it easier. The teeth of the wheel will perforate the paper, which will allow us to transfer quickly the shape of our pieces and make a paper pattern. Take your time, the fabric must not move. Also, don't forget to trace the side seam as well. Even though we won't touch it, it's a good opportunity to have a complete pattern to keep in a safe place. Then, with tracing tools, I'm going to retrace properly what's needs to be, make it smooth and nice and harmonious. I'll also add all the needed information such as the number, the name, the size of the pieces, the construction marks, etc. Now just cut the whole thing and we are done with the pattern. It can be used to trace a lining, an inner facing, another top, and also we can use it to trace the other side of our corsage. To trace symmetrically the back piece on the other side, let's start with folding the fabric along the back seam, right sides together. This first technique I would like to show you uses pins. You can place them like this, or like that, always following the thread line, of course. Thanks to the pins, the shape of the piece appears on the other side, allowing us to retrace it as well with a thread and a needle. Make sure to only grab one layer of the fabric. When it's done, remove the pins, leaving only the few that hold the fabric folded. We still have to trace the construction marks as well, using the same technique. Again, be careful not to sew both layers together. And voila! We can now remove the pins and gently open the fabric in case we have indeed sewn two layers of fabric together, which happens often. Write and pin the name of your piece, that will also help us not to sew it upside down later on. Alright, our center back right has his very own center back left. Let's work on the sides. So for that, let me show you another technique using a contrasting colored carbon paper. Place the wrong side of your fabric on top of the right side of the paper. I also made a quick thread mark to replace the paper tag on my right side piece, and I place it right sides together on the other side in order to obtain a symmetrical left side piece. Also, if you have, like I do, a side seam in the middle of your side pieces, remember to perfectly align them on top of each other. Now, thanks to my faithful tracing wheel, I transfer the shape of our piece as well as the construction marks onto the other side. This quick and easy technique is very useful, but the resulting marked lines are visible on one side of the fabric only, which can be slightly problematic sometimes. So to make up for this inconvenience, you can quickly retrace them with a thread and your favorite needle. So side pieces, check, onto the front with yet another technique. This way you'll be familiar with different transfer options and you'll be able to pick a favorite. So here you want first to correctly align buttons and buttonholes and make a little mark with two pins as to where we will need to retrace the shape of the front. Then, between the two guiding pins, we can place and pin the corresponding pattern piece, the one we had safely kept on the side. Carefully cut around it, we have very little fabric left for our seam allowance. Retrace the shape of the piece with the thread and a needle, as well as the construction marks. These marks are really important for every piece, but most of all here, since the front requires exactness and accuracy to gently and smoothly imitate the sweet curves of our tender breasts. Okay, moving on. It is time to baste everything together, and trust me, that is no step to skip. I place and pin the pieces right sides together using the construction marks as a guide and basting them with contrasting colored thread. Start at the very bottom and go to the very end of the fabric. It will make the fitting easier. And look at this bright yellow! Alright, let's start with these two pieces. The difficulty lies in the alignment of the traced lines. It has to be perfect, so check both sides often. It matches. Let's go on. My pieces are basted together. The construction marks match, as well as the waistline and the neckline. Do the same for every piece. Try the corsage on, make modifications in the fit if necessary. You will finally then be able to greet your sewing machine. Hello! Bonjour! Stitch at about 1/4 millimeter next to the basting. This way you'll be able to unstitch it quickly and easily. A few careful snips with your scissors and it's gone. Now, final step, I am going to serge the raw edges, but you can do the same by cutting the excess fabric and finishing it off with a zigzag stitch of your sewing machine. Of course, it wouldn't be perfect without opening and pressing the seams, and to do that, I'm using a tailor's ham that imitates the curve of the breasts. And we are done for today. Congratulations! In the next episode, we will see how to adjust the skirt part of the dress and how to attach it to the top. So keep the tracings of the neckline as well as the waist. I quickly folded and basted the neckline with big stitches so you could have a better view of the progress we made so far on the dress. Also, it is the last chance to change the shape of our décolleté. Thank you very much for your time. I am grateful you gave it to this tutorial today, and I really hope that this video will inspire you to wildly attack an old dress with sharp and clever scissors. Subscribe, hit the bell button, have a look at my Instagram. You'll be notified of the next episode. Bye bye! À bientôt!